All right, let's dive into one of the most talked about, most controversial debut novels ever. Iain Banks' The Wasp Factory. If you haven't read it, well, you're about to step into a really dark and, honestly, a truly fascinating world.
Right from the jump, the book just grabs you. The very first thing our narrator, Frank, tells us is that he murdered 3 children before he was even 10. That one sentence, wow, it just sets the stage perfectly for the absolutely wild journey we're about to take inside his head.
So who is this kid, and where in the world does this kind of darkness come from? Well, to get Frank, you first have to get his world. And his world is basically just a remote, beat-up little island that shapes his entire reality.
So yeah, Frank is 16, but imagine a life totally cut off from everything. He's on this isolated Scottish island, no friends, no school, nothing. The only other person around is his very strange father. This total isolation is pretty much the pressure cooker where his whole worldview gets created.
Now, to deal with this, to make sense of his life, Frank's basically thrown out the normal rulebook. Instead, he's built this incredibly complex system of rituals and sacrifices. It's almost like his own private religion, all designed to give him a feeling of control over a world that seems totally chaotic.
And right at the heart of this personal religion is the thing that gives the book its name. Let's take a closer look at the Wasp Factory, because it's key to understanding what's going on with Frank.
See, the Wasp Factory isn't just some weird hobby. For Frank, it's a tool for seeing the future. It's built into this old clock face, and it's his desperate way of trying to control what he can't control. He creates these tiny, violent little plays to try and predict what's coming next.
And the whole process is, well, it's chillingly methodical. He catches a wasp, and inside the factory, that wasp has to choose a path to its own death. The path it takes, how it dies, Frank sees that as a message, a sign from the universe telling him what to do. It's his own twisted way of managing chaos. But Frank's not the only one with issues here, not by a long shot. His dad is this reclusive scientist who's given Frank let's just say, a very distorted education. And then there's his older brother Eric, who's locked away in a mental hospital after his own violent breakdown. So yeah, the whole family dynamic is a ticking time bomb.
And that time bomb is about to go off. The tension in the book just skyrockets when Frank gets a call. Eric has escaped, and he's coming home to the island. This is not going to be a happy family reunion. It's a collision course between 2 really, really disturbed minds.
Eric's return is the catalyst. It sets off a chain reaction that completely unravels everything Frank thinks he knows about himself, his family, and his entire life. And it all leads to one of the most jaw-dropping twists in modern literature. The whole time you're reading, you're asking this one question, right? What is the deal with this kid? Is he just a monster? Or is there something else going on? Some secret reason for all the violence, the rituals, and this obsessive need to be in control? The answer changes everything. It reframes the entire story in a single moment. Frank, the violent, murderous boy telling us this story, was born female.
And just like that, you see the 2 realities. There's Frank's perception, this hyper-masculine, violent boy. But then there's the objective truth. He's actually the victim of this unbelievable deception which has thrown him into a massive identity crisis at the very core of his being. And this wasn't an accident. It was a choice. Frank's father, basically as part of some twisted experiment against society, decided to raise his biologically female child as a boy. He sealed the deal with male hormones and a lifetime of absolute lies.
So, once you know this secret, you have to go back and rethink everything. This isn't just a twist to shock you. No, it's the master key. It's the one thing that unlocks the entire psychological puzzle of who Frank Cauldhame is.
And with that key, suddenly it all starts to make this awful, terrifying kind of sense. The murders he claims he committed, all those bizarre rituals, the Wasp Factory itself, they're not just random acts of madness. They are symptoms, violent, desperate symptoms of a deep, hidden trauma.
The fallout from this one secret is just complete psychological chaos. That violent, super-masculine personality, it's all a performance. It's an outward expression of this raging internal war, a twisted act of a gender that was forced on him. And the rituals? They're his desperate attempt to control an identity that was never really his to begin with.
Okay, so beyond all the shock and the horror, what's the point? What can a story this dark actually teach us? Let's zoom out a bit and look at some of the really big ideas simmering just beneath the surface. I mean, this book really forces you to grapple with some huge questions.
It shows how gender can be a fragile construct, something shaped by our environment. It shows how total isolation can literally break a mind, and it's a powerful lesson in how destructive family secrets can be. Most of all, it proves that what a person believes to be true can become their reality, even if it's all built on a lie.
And that's what makes this book so incredible, especially when you remember it came out in 1984. This was way before these kinds of conversations were happening in the mainstream. The Wasp Factory was already tearing down these rigid, black and white ideas about gender and showing just how complex and fragile our sense of self can be. When you boil it all down, the story is a warning, right? It's an extreme example, for sure, but it shows us how much we need our connection to other people, to share truths just to stay sane. If you cut someone off from the world completely, they'll just build their own. And sometimes that new world can be a very dangerous place.
And that really leaves us with this big, final question to chew on. Frank's story makes you look in the mirror and ask, what parts of who I am did I actually choose? And how many parts were just built for me, by my family, by society, by my circumstances? It's a heavy thought, and it's exactly why The Wasp Factory sticks with you long after you've finished it.